The National Chamber of Commerce called upon the government to offer stronger backing to small and medium-sized businesses in order to stimulate growth. I asked a member of our ruling coalition, Sarah Tether, how the government is planning to accommodate this demand and boost entrepreneurship.
In my experience, the biggest barrier for a lot of small and medium-sized companies is being able to get money from the bank. Banks stopped lending to a lot of companies, and that's made it really difficult. And that's been the focus of the work of my colleague Vince Cable. And one of the things that he's doing is to set up a British business bank that will lend £10 billion to business in particular to make sure that we can actually get people moving again.
Although British businesses are justifiably grieving from a lack of credit from banks, a culture of entrepreneurialism can go a long way to inspiring growth, recovery and survival. An initiative of this kind is Startup Britain. I went along to one of their events to find out more. This event is Startup Entertainment, organised by Startup Britain, a national campaign set up 3 years ago by 8 entrepreneurs with the backing of the government. Their aim? Well, to bring together the expertise of Britain's leading business people to inspire and accelerate enterprise in the UK. Startup Entertainment seeks to give information, advice and help to people with ideas aspiring to set up a business. Today's event has a focus on the entertainment sector, and to tell me more about it is co-founder of Startup Britain, Emma Jones. Emma, good to meet you.
Hello there.
Tell me, what led you to set up Startup Britain?
Well, Startup Britain was set up just under 3 years ago. It was started by 8 people who run their own businesses, helping the small business sector. And what we wanted to do was encourage more people in the UK to start a business and help existing businesses to grow. So we're serving both of those aims today.
So essentially, entrepreneurs helping entrepreneurs.
Absolutely. So 8 entrepreneurs, but now, of course, since the campaign has been launched, we've had help from lots of people across the UK. We've done lots of activity, lots of events, gone on tour. All of this to the aim of making sure that the UK stays at the forefront of enterprise.
There's a good turnout today. How crucial is it to recognise the importance of startups in a recession climate?
I think it's more important than ever to recognise the value and importance of startups at the moment. The UK is seeing record numbers of people starting a business, so 484,000 new startups in 2012. This year, we're really hoping that the UK hits the 500,000 figure, and it's so important to be encouraging them at the moment because it will be startups that bring this economy out of recession. There's lots of them, they're generating lots of economic wealth, they're going global very quickly, so we've got to encourage them and then support them once they've started.
What advice can you give to businesses in terms of survival? We're in a recession.
So the best businesses that we're seeing start at the moment are businesses that have a niche, i.e. they've got a very clear product or service that's aimed at a very clear audience. The other thing they're doing is they're keeping their overheads low, so they're not necessarily taking on office space, they're building the business from home, they're using co-working facilities. There's lots of collaboration in the small business space at the moment, so rather than buying resources, people are sharing them. So the best businesses we're seeing, they've got a niche idea, they're keeping their overheads low, and they're really focused on making sales. Do that and you'll be okay.
The idea of setting up a business is a daunting prospect at the best of times, and more so during an economic downturn. It's very busy here today with people because they've come here to be inspired and get an insight into how they can make their business ideas a reality. I caught up with some of them earlier.
I'm here today to hear from professionals about how they set up their business because I'm in the process of setting up my own business and I want to know more about how they did it.
What I've learned from today is really about focus, being focused and not letting anyone rain on your parade.
I'm here to network with other people who are into the entertainment industry and are trying to express their creativity through new startups.
If I can tap into people's ideas, I can then invest within their business. Not just investment in terms of money, but in terms of just my knowledge and the people that are around me.
Today I've learned that there needs to be a lot more value than there is volume. You can't just push out a product if it's not got any value and no one wants it.
It's heartening to note that in the thick of an economic crisis, there are initiatives encouraging ways to restoring a healthy economy. Yet no one can deny how deep and far-reaching the problems are. Having said this though, not everyone's been affected. Although the majority have to tighten their belts, shrewd investors and businesses see in the economic downturn opportunities. A chance to capitalise by buying properties, antiquities and unwanted shares at a fraction of their market value. It would seem that a minority are gaining a distinct advantage amidst the financial woes. The UK has fared comparatively well during the recession compared to other countries. As the economic collapse has mutated into a global phenomenon, the reverberations felt across the board have been drastic. According to the International Monetary Fund, the wider impact of the American housing crisis has cost the world economy trillions, and official recessions were declared in 15 European Union countries. Although the impact's been felt worldwide, Europe finds itself at a crossroads. Many countries, mostly in southern Europe, produced austerity measures including tax rises alongside numerous cuts including salaries, pensions, benefits and social services with the objective of cutting government debts. This put pressure on already weak economies, sending them into recession.
The Eurozone, or the European Union as a whole, is our largest trading partner. So of course, when the economies of the Eurozone are weak, that depresses demand for the goods that we sell to them. Just as the same thing happens the other way. So the fact that both the UK and the Eurozone have been doing badly in recent years has generated a multiplier effect, which has dragged us both down.
Reading a text statement by EU's top economist Olli Rehn, European Commission spokesperson Chantal Hughes said that recent data showed slow signs of recovery.
The recent positive survey data are encouraging and suggest the European economy is gradually gaining momentum. They support the European Commission's 2013 spring forecasts and its projections for a subdued, mild recovery in the second half of 2013. This slightly more positive data is welcome, but there is no room for any complacency. Self-congratulatory statements suggesting that the crisis is over are definitely not for today. There are still substantial obstacles to overcome. The growth figures remain low and the tentative signs of growth are still fragile.
Mr. Rehn also said in the statement that EU members, Eurogroup members or not, should pursue their efforts towards tighter budget control and reforms. With many jobs lost here in the UK as a result of the recession, British people in work are becoming increasingly worried about losing their employment, and as a result are spending less, causing demand to plummet. In the face of this, how is the government planning to restore consumer confidence?
Well, I think one of the most important ways in which you can get people spending again is to put a little bit more cash in their pocket. And that's the reason why the government has reduced the amount of tax that everybody's paying, particularly those who are earning the least. And by changing the personal tax allowance, that just puts just a little bit of extra money back into people's pockets.
For the average person, it may feel like nothing bodes well for our economic future, but there are grounds for optimism. On the domestic front, the economy has regained some momentum, judging by the growth in UK exports and the expansion of the construction sector. The prospects for the economy have been boosted by the Bank of England's decision to keep interest rates at an all-time low, and the housing market has witnessed a rise in buy-to-let mortgages. Also, the government has implemented austerity measures in a bid to counter recession, but these measures have come under scrutiny from economists.
Well, the austerity measures, both here and perhaps even more so in the Eurozone, have certainly done an awful lot of damage to economic recovery over the last 2 years. Things do appear to be getting slightly better, but we still haven't seen the strong and sustainable recovery that we should have seen by now, and that is in large part due to premature austerity.
With the deficit and unemployment still at high levels, any talks of a sustainable recovery at this point would be premature. The National Institute for Economics and Social Research states that UK growth is accelerating, but any further contractions would see us back to square one. Moving forward, the question on everybody's lips is how do we achieve a strong, sustainable and equitable recovery?
Clearly, one major element is to regulate the banks more tightly so that they lend less in boom times. And a second main element that is much more immediate is that governments should increase their spending, even out of borrowing, in order to stimulate the private sector.
The biggest thing that holds people back from starting a business in Britain is the confidence to give it a go. We see a big role for Startup Britain in doing that, but the government and others can play a role in making that happen. So we've got to encourage more people to start, and once they've started, we've got to give them the right support to grow, to give them access to markets. So open up government contracts so more people can get government contracts, big companies to pay more on time so it helps businesses grow with the cash flow they need.
Well, there are lots of things government could do. First of all, policy could be better in terms of how much the government is spending and borrowing. There is no reason when spending is depressed for the government not to borrow somewhat more and spend it on useful programs. Second, we need a better education system, particularly for those young people who don't currently go to university. Third, we need better welfare to work programs to ensure that young people who are unemployed are supported into jobs.
The key message coming through global businesses and economies through what seems to be a never-ending economic recession is adapt to survive. However, for already weaker economies and nations, sometimes even that isn't enough to save them. Talks of a solution to the crisis are proving harder than expected, and there's no simple answers to these questions. Although there may be shoots of recovery, people are still doing everything they can to stay afloat, whilst governments are trying to put in place measures to try to bring some stability back into their economies. Although we're feeling the impact here, the UK is in actual fact in better position than most countries to weather the storm. Boom and bust are symptomatic of capitalism, and so the cycle of rise and fall in world economies will continue.